Good evening and welcome back to the Vegas October 1 Sounds channel with the Hunter Chronicles. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit more about bags. We're going to be talking about which MGM videos cover not only the bag arrivals but the departure and arrivals which didn't have luggage. And then we're going to be taking that information and forming as complete a picture as we can with the MGM videos to see what arrivals and what departures are documented. And then we're going to compare it to the valet logs as we have the leaked image, the leaked valet entry from a kind person, and we'll compare the two, see what we come up with, and at the very end there'll still be more work to do, but we get a pretty good picture. So let's expand upon what we did in the last episode where we took the bags, all the images with bags, and we laid them out in the chronicle fashion. And let's do the same thing, only this time with all the images for arriving and departures. At least the ones that we can see where he actually arrived or departed. So as you recall, just as a brief refresher, the last episode had presented the images here from the 25th. He, came in with his laptop and at some point went up to his room, dropped it off, and then left, and as we will learn later, went over to the Self Park and then drove around to Valet. So now we have the images from the 25th, the 26th, and the 28th, all of which resulted in Valet bellhop service. And some people might ask, why don't we just start with the fit report? And on this page, you can see precisely why we don't. Because as just a small example, the 28th, the fit report doesn't even tell us that there was a bellhop service on the 28th. Plus, when you think about it, the fit report itself is nothing more than conclusions and summaries. It doesn't get down to tell us what the hardcore source of their observations are, but these images, they're hardcore observations which we can make ourselves, and then from it draw our own conclusions. And eventually we'll get to the fit report. Don't get me wrong, we'll compare what the fit report says with all this information that we've gathered. And this is kind of, reverse engineering what the law enforcement had to do. Now, the law enforcement people had a big leg up on us in that they just went directly to the valet system and said, print me out all references to Paddock, his car, etc., etc., and they took the times from that, and they should have been able to go directly to the cameras and pick up the images that they want. But for some reason, it didn't always work out for them. And perhaps if we recreate the process a little bit, we'll get a better feel, walk in the footsteps of the person who created the fit report. So with that, let's let roll. As you can see, this page covered all of the bellhop arrivals and usages where luggage came in. And then we have another set of images for the 25th and the 27th where luggage went out, called a departure. And then we had another set of images from last episode, showing the various times at which Paddock did not use the bellhop service, but brought bags in himself. 2 times on the 30th, the first entry on the first row of the 30th and the last row on the first, both times did in fact use the valet service, but did not use the bellhop. And then the middle one on the 30th was, of course, Self Park, where he drug him all the way from Self Park across the entire casino and up to his room. And so, of course, we asked the natural question, are there other images where Paddock was seen either entering or leaving without luggage? And the answer is, of course, yes, there is. Well, show them to me, baby. That's always the answer, show them to me. And we start with 2 images on the 30th, which constitute one trip through the beach level to leave the hotel. And you can see Paddock on the lower right in his blue shirt, getting ready to walk around to his car, which has the driver's side open, and then leave. That's a departure from the valet, beach level. And the image on the left, of course, is theoretically the elevator trip just prior and leading up to that. All right, so that's one trip. Now we have these on the first, where we can see that Paddock used the self-park to make, let's see, this is at noon, so this is him leaving the hotel via the self-park area, and then eventually he would come back around through Valet. So let's summarize what we know. We have 3 Valet entries, all of which resulted in bellhop usage. We have 2 Valet entries where he was pulling his luggage, and we have 1 self-park where he was pulling the luggage. We have 1 self-park on the 25th where he was carrying a laptop. We have 1 Valet departure where they had no luggage whatsoever. We have 1 Valet departure where he was pulling, and 1 self-park with no luggage. So how many trips is that? Let's see. Well, I added them up before. That's a total of 10 trips. 10 trips. So if we eliminate the self-park, why do we do that? Because the Valet system doesn't track self-park. It's an entirely different piece of software, and you have to go to it and pull up a list, which I'm sure LVMPD did, which once again, boggles my mind as to why they didn't immediately have access to go directly to all the images. Or maybe they did and they're just not telling us. But anyway, the Valet system in conjunction with the self-park system in conjunction with all the access to cameras they had should have nailed everything down, right down to the gnat's ass. And it truly is, how shall I put it? Not mind-boggling, but well, kind of defies belief to acknowledge that the mistakes made were just simple mistakes. Let's just put it that way. So anyway, back to the slides here. So we eliminate the self-park trips, and that narrows it down to, as we can see, 5 total Valets entries and 2 Valet departures, for a total of 7. All right, so what images do we have? We've shown you the images over there. So this should be 7 total entries that make it into what? Into the Valet Log. So let's pull up the leak image and see what we see. There's the leak image, and at the top we see a table where they did a search for Stephen Paddock, and it showed up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total rows, and there's an arrival and a departure on each row, so that's a total of 12. And let's take a closer look at the table there when we had converted it into an Excel spreadsheet, or somebody else did. And we have arrivals on the left, we have the time that the car was parked, when we have the request date and departure time on the right. And then we can see that not all of these occurred during the week that Paddock stayed prior to the shooting. So we can eliminate them by graying out that portion which is not of interest, at least for the week of the shooting. So there we go. That leaves a grand total of 3 entries. Now wait a minute. Didn't we have a total of 7 that we needed to deal with? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Well, now we got a conundrum here. So let's go ahead and take each image, sets of image, on a specific arrival time and day, and see how it correlates to this. So we're missing 2 arrival dates and we have 1 extra departure compared to the MGM videos. And now I'm going to show you how I arrived at that. So here we are back with the arrival bellhop images from the 25th, the 26th, and the 28th. And I will color code them, and the color code will surround the images for the day, and then that color code will generate a box up on our Valet table. And similarly all the way to the first. So the green one, which is on the 21st, yep, we got that one. That one's up there. How about the next one on the 26th, the yellow? Yep, we got that one. 28th, arrival. Excuse me, didn't have it. The 30th arrival, we've got it. So now we've covered all the arrivals, but we got we got a departure there, but it's self-park, so we're not going to get anything from it. So here on the arrivals, we've got both the 28th and the 1st not in the valet table, at least not under Stephen Paddock. And as many of you know, the 1st was in Mary Lou Danley's name, but prior to the 29th, he couldn't really register a car in Mary Lou Daniels' name because he hadn't checked into the room. So that leaves a little bit of a question, which will be explored more extensively in the next video on this arrival and departure stuff. So let's continue. So why aren't there entries for these images? Well, as I just explained, the one on the 30th is self-park, and since this system doesn't cover self-park, we eliminate it, and that leaves us with the arrival on the 28th with bellhop usage, and an arrival on the 1st, again using the valet, but not having an entry there. So at this moment, we have at least 2 days which did not occur in the valet entry system. Okay, fine. Let's move on to the departures, see if we can do the same thing there and see what we come up with. Well, we got the 25th and the 27th. So the 25th with the orange box, yep, that one's up there. The 27th with the purple box, it's up there. And what other images might there be? Well, there's also images of him leaving without luggage, specifically on, you got it, on the 30th. And that would be the last entry in the valet entry system, valet log. So now we've covered all those entries. What do we have images for that's not in the table? These, the ones on the 28th and the 1st. So, what happened? Well, this video is, I didn't really want to get into it in this one, but we're going to have to look at the fit report. We're going to have to look at some other external information, and we're going to have to decipher what really happened. But at the end of the investigation, we probably still won't be able to say. But right now, we're missing an arrival on the 1st, which, that'll be easy to resolve. But on the 28th, it's not so easy to resolve. So let's get down to discussing a little bit about what the deal is here. Well, let's go through the summary first. Where's my summary? Guess I got a little problem there, don't I? There we go. What we did in this video is based solely on the MGM videos. We did a composite of all the valet entry and exit times, and we can get a partial picture, because after all, the MGM videos do not cover all arrivals and departures, and that's a fundamental flaw in the system, or fundamental flaw in the investigation. But if we take those MGM things and compare them to the leaked images, we can begin to get an idea of what was missed, glossed over, or not presented. And that would be the 28th and the 1st. Now, the fit report is pretty specific on what happened on the 1st. On the 28th, it's not real accurate. And as you can see from this, maybe the investigators went along and they couldn't quite figure things out because there was no entry for the 28th in the valet log, so they probably had to search through videos. And so I can easily understand how maybe, perhaps, the two sets of investigators, they got confused, didn't coordinate their stories, and then, it simply kind of got muddied. But on the other hand, how long do they have? How many videos did they have? I mean, you know, it would be my impression and my speculation that based upon all information, and I'm going to do at least 2 more videos on this stuff just to fill out everything, because we still have the lock interrogation report, we still have fit report, and we still got some other pieces of information to finish up this saga of arrivals and departures and finally nail down everything we have. And we'll cover all of the known self-parks entries. We'll cover all of the times at which entries and exits were made from the rooms, and we'll cover all of the statements that were made by the fit report and the people who should have known. There's dozens of people that were involved in the valet. As I've mentioned before, you've got on arrival, you got the guy who greets the car, you got the guy who unloads the car, you got the guy who takes the cart, if it's a bellhop service, over to wherever, you got the guy that meets that guy, takes over the cart, moves it up to the room, then you got the guy who parks the car, you got the guy or woman in this case, in many cases, when paddock comes down, you got the cashier who takes the ticket. You got the cashier then instructing somebody to go unpark the car, and then finally there may even be another person involved. I don't know, but so you see, there's quite a number of people for each trip, each pair of trips, and paddock had at least 7. So we're missing a whole bunch of statements from a whole bunch of people. Now the impact of those statements is not that great, generally speaking. I mean, with the cashier, what's she going to tell us, really? Maybe who he was with, what his attitude was, how much he tipped when he was there, all that sort of stuff. But given that we're missing so many of the statements, you begin to suspect something else. For example, how did I really get to the point where I needed this video? I needed to know if the LVMPD statement that paddock arrived on the 28th and did not leave the hotel till the 30th was a true statement. How do I know that? The fit report itself doesn't say that. It doesn't provide the pictures or the primary material. It doesn't provide the valet logs. It doesn't provide the self-park logs. It doesn't provide the images. It doesn't provide the statements, mostly, from anybody related to the 28th departure and the arrival on the 30th a.m. And there's some pretty significant things that happened on the arrival of the 30th, and there may be some significant things that happened on the 28th and 29th, which it becomes important. And you put on top of that the fact that we have 2 people for which there are statement summaries in the fit report that claim paddock was on the 29th. He was in a car, potentially with a woman. He had luggage, or he didn't have luggage, but he was seen. And so there's great doubt that gets created, and you have to account for all that. And that's where I was. I was on the 29th trying to figure out everything that was happening, and I got to this point where, well, how do I know that paddock didn't have any arrival or departures? And you have to go back and look at the images, you have to look at the valet log, and so here we are. But anyway, this little video shows that there are things that are missing from the valet log, and it's worthy of another episode. So with that, let me wrap it up, and we'll catch you in the next one.